right, Miss Moog, this is my chapter 26 reading for extra credit. In the weed patch camp, on an evening when the long, bared clouds hung over the set sun and inflamed their edges, the Jode family lingered after their supper. Ma hesitated before she started to do the dishes. "We got to do something," she said, and she pointed at Winfield. "Look at him," she said, and when they stared at the little boy, "He's a jerkin' and a twistin' in his sleep. Look out his color." The members of the family looked at the earth again in shame. "Fried dough," Ma said. "1 month we been here, and Tom had 5 days' work, and the rest of you scrabbling out every day ain't no work. Ain't scared to talk, and the money gone, you're scared to talk it out. Every night you just eat and then get wandering away. Can't bear to talk it out. Well, you gotta go. Rosa Sharon ain't far from due. Look at her color. You gotta talk it out. Now don't none of you get up till we figure something out. 1 day more grease and 2 days flour and 10 potatoes. You set here and get busy." They looked at the ground. Pa cleaned his thick nails with his pocket knife. Uncle John picked at a splinter on the box he sat on. Tom pinched his lower lip and pulled it away from his teeth. He released his lip and said softly, "We been a-lookin'. Ma been walking out, seen. We can't use the gas no more. Been going in every gate, walking up to every house, even when we knowed they wasn't gonna be none. Puts a weight on you. Going out looking for something you know you ain't gonna find." Ma said fiercely, "You ain't got the right to go discouraged. This here family's going under. You just ain't got the right." Pa inspected his scrapped nails. "We gotta go," he said. "We feared we'll have to go in one and them Hoovervilles." "Well, if we got to go, we got to go. First thing is, we got to eat." Al broke in. "I got a tank full of gas in this trunk. I didn't let nobody get into that." Tom smiled. "This here Al got a lot of sense along with he's randy pandy. Now you figure," Ma said. "I ain't watching this here family starve no more. 1 day more grease. That's what we got. Come time for Rosa Sharon to lay in. She gotta be fed up, you figure." This here hot water and toilets," Pa began. "Well, we can't eat no toilets," Tom said. There was a fella come by today looking for men to go to Marysville picking fruit." "Well, why don't we go to Marysville?" Ma demanded. "I don't know," said Tom. Didn't seem right, somehow. He was so anxious, wouldn't say much the pay was. Said he didn't know exactly. Ma said, "We're going to Marysville. I don't care what the pay is, we're going." "It's too far," said Tom. "We ain't got the money for gasoline." "We couldn't get there," Ma said. "We got to figure." "I ain't done nothing but figure the whole time." Uncle John said, "Feller says the cotton coming in up north, near a place called Tulare. That ain't very far, the feller says." "Well, we gotta get something going, and going quick. I ain't setting here no longer, no matter how nice." Ma took up her bucket and walked toward the sanitary unit for hot water. "Ma gets tough," Tom said. "I seen her getting mad quite a piece now. She just boils up." Pa said her with relief, "Well, she bring it into the open. Anyways, I've been layin' at night a-burnin' my brains up. Now we can talk her out anyways." Mom came back with her bucket of steaming water. "Well," she demanded, "figure anything out?" "Just working over here," said Tom. "Now suppose we just move up north, where that cotton's at. We've been over this here country. We know that ain't nothing here. Suppose we pack up and shove north. Then when the cotton's ready, we'll be there. I kind of like to get my hands around some cotton." "You got a full tank, Al?" "Almost. About two inches down. Should get us up to that place." Ma poised a dish over the bucket. "Well," she demanded. Tom said, "You win. We'll move on, I guess. Huh, Pa?" "Guess we got to," Pa said. Ma glanced at him. "When?" "Well, no need waiting. Might's well go in the morning." "We got to go in the morning. I told you what's left. Now, Ma, don't think I don't want to go. I ain't had a good gutful to eat in 2 weeks. Course I filled up, but I didn't take no good from it." Ma plunged the dish into the bucket. "We'll go in the morning," she said. Pa sniffled. Seems like the times has changed, he said sarcastically. Time was when a man said what we'd do. Seems like women is telling now. Seems like it's pretty near time to go get out a stick. Ma put the clean dripping tin dish out on a box. She smiled down at her work. You get your stick, Pa, she said. Times when there's food and a place to set. Then maybe you can use your stick and keep your skin whole. But you ain't a doing your job either, a thinking or a working. If you was, why, you could use your stick and a woman's folk sniffle their nose and creeping mouse around. But you just get you a stick now, and you ain't licking no woman. You're a fighting, 'cause I got a stick all laid out too. Pa grinned with embarrassment. Now it ain't good to have the little fellas here you talking like that, he said. You get some bacon inside the little fellas before you come tellin' what else is good for 'em, Ma said. Pa got up in disgust and moved away, and Uncle John followed him. Ma's hands were busy in the water, but she watched them go. And she said proudly to Tom, He's all right. He ain't beat. He's like as not to take a smack at me. Tom laughed. You just a treading him out. You just treading him on. Sure, Ma said Ma. Take a man, he can get worried, and it eats out his liver. And pretty soon he'll just lay down and die with his heart et out. But if you can take him, make him mad, why, he'll be all right. Pa, he didn't say nothing, but he's mad now. He'll show me now. He's all right. Al got up. I'm gonna walk down the row, he said. Better see the truck's ready to go. Tom warned him. She's ready. If she ain't, I'll turn Ma on you. She's ready. Al strolled jauntily along the row of tents. Tom sighed. I'm getting tired, Ma. How about making me mad? You got more sense, Tom. I don't need to make you mad. I gotta lean on you. Them others, they're kind of strangers. All but you. You won't give up, Tom. The job fell on him. I don't like it, he said. I want to go out like Al. And I want to get mad like Pa. And I want to get drunk like Uncle John. Ma shook her head. You can't, Tom. I know. I knowed from the time you was a little fella. You can't. There's some folks that just their self and nothing more. There's Al. He's just a young fella after a girl. You wasn't never like that, Tom. Sure I was, said Tom. Still am. No, you ain't. Everything you do is more'n you. When they sent when they sent you up to prison, I knowed it. You are spoke for. Now, Ma, cut it out. It ain't true. It's all in your head. She stacked the knives and forks on top of the plates. Maybe it's in my head. Rosa Sharon, you wipe up these here and put 'em away. The girl got breathlessly to her feet, and her swollen middle hung out front of her. She moved sluggishly to the box and picked up a washed dish. Tom said, getting so tightful it's pulling her eyes wide. Don't you got a Jollian? Said Ma. She's doing good. You go along and say goodbye to anybody you want. Okay, she said. I'm going to see how far it is up there. Ma said to the girl, he ain't saying stuff like that to make you feel bad. Where's Ruthie and Winfield? They snuck off after Pa. I seen 'em. Well, leave 'em go. Rosa Sharon moved sluggishly about her work. Ma inspected her cautiously. You feeling pretty good? Your cheeks is kind of saggy. I ain't had milk like they said I ought. I know. We just didn't have no milk. Rosa Sharon said dolefully. If Connie hadn't went away, we'd had a little house by now, with him studying and all. Would have got milk like I need. Would have had a nice baby. This here baby ain't gonna be no good. I ought to had milk. She reached in her apron pocket and put something into her mouth. Ma said, I seen you nibbling on something. What you eating? Nothing. Come on, what you nibbling on? Just a piece of slack line. Found a big hunk. Why, that's just like eating dirt. I kind of feel like I want it. Ma was silent. She spread her knees and tightened her skirt. I know, she said at last. I ate coal once when I was in a family way. Ate a big piece of coal. Grandma says I shouldn't. Don't you say that about the baby. You got no right even to think it. Gosh, no, husband. Got no milk, Ma said. If you was a well girl, I'd take a wang at you, right in the face. She got up and went inside the tent. She came out and stood in front of Rose of Sharon, and she held out her hand. Look. The small gold earrings were in her hand. These is for you. The girl's eyes brightened for a moment, and then she looked aside. I ain't pierced. Well, I'm gonna pierce you. Ma hurried back into the tent. She came back with a cardboard box. Hurriedly, she threaded a needle, doubled the thread, and tied a series of knots in it. She threaded a second needle and knotted the thread. In the box, she found a piece of cork. It'll hurt. It'll hurt. Ma stepped to her, put the cork in the back of the earlobe, and pushed the needle through the ear into the cork. The girl twitched. It sticks. It'll hurt. No more than that. Yes, it will. Well then, let's see the other ear first. She placed the cork and pierced the other ear. It'll hurt. Hush, said Ma. It's all done. Rose of Sharon looked at her in wonder. Ma clipped the needles off, pulled one knot off each thread through the lobes. Now, she said, every day we'll pull one knot, and in a couple weeks it'll be all well, and you can wear them. Here. They're now urine now. What? You can keep them. Rose of Sharon touched her ears tenderly and looked at the tiny spots of blood on her fingers. It didn't hurt, just stuck a little. You ought to have been pierced long ago, said Ma. She looked at the girl's face and she smiled in triumph. Now get them dishes all done. Your baby gonna be a good baby. Very near let you have a baby without your ears was pierced. But you're safe now. Does it mean something? Why, of course it does, said Ma. Of course it does. Al strolled down the street toward the dancing platform. Outside a neat little tent, he whistled softly, and then moved along the street. He walked to the edge of the grounds and sat down in the grass. The clouds over the west had lost the red edging now, and the clouds were black. Al scratched his legs and looked toward the evening sky. In a few moments, a blonde girl walked near. She was pretty and sharp-featured. She sat down in the grass beside him and did not speak. Al put his hand on her waist and walked his fingers around. Don't, she said. You tickle. We're going away tomorrow, said Al. She looked at him, startled. Tomorrow? Where? Up north, he said lightly. Well, we're going to get married, ain't we? Sure, sometime. You said pretty soon. She cried angrily. Well, soon is when soon comes. You promise. He walked his fingers around her farther. Get away, she cried. You said we was. Well, sure we are. And now you're going away? Al demanded. What's the matter with you? You in a family? No way. You in a family way? Oh, no I ain't. Al laughed. I just been wasting my time, huh? Her chin shot out. She jumped to her feet. You get away from me. Al joked. I don't want to see you no more. Aw, come on. What's the matter? You think you're just hell on wheels? Now, wait a minute. You think I got to go out with you? Well, I don't. I got lots of chances. Now, wait a minute. No, sir. You get away. Al lunged suddenly, caught her by the ankle, and tripped her. He grabbed her when she fell, and held her, and put his hand over her mouth put his hand over her angry mouth. She tried to bite his palm, but he cupped it over her mouth. He held her down with his other arm. And in a moment she lay still, and in another moment they were giggling together in the dry grass. Why, we'll be coming back pretty soon, said Al, and I'll have a pocket full of Jack. We'll go down to Hollywood and see the pictures. She was lying on her back. Al bent over her, and he was the bright evening star reflected in her eyes, and he saw the black cloud reflected in her eyes. We'll go on the train, he said. How long you think it'll be? She asked. Oh, maybe a month, he said. The evening dark came down, and Pa and Uncle John squatted with the heads of families out by the office. They studied the night and the future. The little manager, in his white cloths, frayed and clean, rested his elbows on the porch rail. His face was drawn and tired. Houston looked up at him. You better get some sleep, mister. I guess I ought. Baby born last night in Unit 3. I'm gonna be a good midwife. Fella ought to know, said Houston. Married fella gotta know. Pa said, we're getting out in the morning. Yeah. Which way you going? Thought we'd go up north a little. Try to get in the first con. We ain't had work. We're out of food. Know if there's any work? Houston asked. No, but we're sure they ain't none here. They will be a little later, Houston said. We'll hold on. We hate to go, said Pa. Folks been so nice here, and The toilets and all, but we gotta eat. We got a tank of gas. That'll get us a little piece up the road. We had a bath every day here. Never was so clean in my life. Funny thing used to be, I only got a bath every week, and I never seemed to stink. But now, if I don't get one every day, I stink. Wonder if taking a bath so often makes that. Maybe you couldn't smell yourself before, the manager said. Maybe. I wished we could stay. The little manager held his temples between his palms. I think there's going to be another baby tonight, he said. We're going to have one in our family for long, said Pa. I wished we could have it here. I sure wished we could. Tom and Willie and Jewel, the half-breed sat on the edge. The half-breed sat on the edge of the dance floor and swung their feet. I got a sack of Durham, Jewel said. Like a smoke? I sure would, said Tom. I ain't had a smoke for a hell of a time. He rolled the brown cigarette carefully to keep down the loss of tobacco. Well, sir, we'll be sorry to see you go, said Willie. You folks is good folks. Tom lighted his cigarette. I've been thinking about it a lot. Jesus Christ, I wish we could settle down. Jewel took back his Durham. It ain't nice, he said. I got a little girl. Thought when I come out here, she'd get some schooling. But hell, we ain't in one place hardly long enough. Geez, Jess gets it going and we gotta drag on. I hope we don't get in no more Hooverville, said Tom. I was really scared there. Deputies push you around. I was scared I'd kill somebody, said Tom. Was only there a little while, but I was stewing around the whole time. Deputy came in and picked up a friend just because he talked out of turn. I was just stewing all the time. Ever been in a strike? Willie asked. No. Well, I've been thinking a lot. Why don't them deputies get in here and raise hell like every other place? Think that little guy in the office is stopping them? No, sir. Well, what is? Jewel asked. I'll tell you. It's because we're all working together. Deputy can't pick on a fella in this camp. He picks on the whole darn camp, and he don't dare. All we got to do is give a yell, and there's 200 men out. Fella organizing for the union was taken out on the road. He says he could do that any place. Just stick together. They ain't raising hell with no 200 men. They're picking on one man. Yeah, said Jewel. And suppose you got a union, you gotta have leaders. They'll just pick up your leaders. And where's your union? Well, said Willie, we've got to figure her out sometime. I've been out here a year, and wages is going down right on down. A fella can't feed his family on his work now, and it's getting worse all the time. It ain't gonna do no good to sit around and starve. I don't know what to do. If a fella owns a team of horses, he don't raise no hell. If you gotta feed them when they ain't working. But if a fella got men working for him, he just don't give a damn. Horses a hell of a lot more worth than men. I don't understand it. Get so I don't want to think about it, said Jewel. I gotta think about it. I get this here little girl. You know how pretty she is. 1 week they give her a prize in this camp because she's so pretty. Well, what's gonna happen to her? She's getting spindly. I ain't gonna stand it. She's so pretty I'm gonna bust out. How? Willie asked. What you gonna do? Steal some stuff and get in jail? Kill somebody and get hung? I don't know, said Jewel. Gets me nuts thinking about it. Gets me clear nuts. I'm gonna miss them dances, Tom said. Them was some of the nicest dances I ever seen. Well, I'm gonna turn in. So long. I'll be seeing you someplace. He shook hands. Sure will, said Jewel. Well, so long. Tom moved away into the darkness. In the darkness of the Joe tent, Ruthie and Winfield lay on their mattresses, and Ma lay beside them. Ruthie whispered, Ma, yeah? Ain't you asleep yet? Ma, they gonna have croquet where we're going? I don't know. Get some sleep. We want to get an early start. Well, I wish we'd stay here where we're sure we got croquet. Shh, said Ma. Ma, Winfield hit a kid tonight. He shouldn't have. I know, I told him. But he hit the kid right in the nose, and Jesus, how the blood run down. Don't talk like that. It ain't a nice way to talk. Winfield turned over. That kid says we was Okies. He said it in an outraged voice. He says He wasn't no Okie 'cause he come from Oregon. Says we was goddamn Okies. I socked him. Shh, you shouldn't. He can't hurt you calling names. Well, I won't let him, Winfield said fiercely. Shh, get some sleep, Ruthie said. You ought to seen the blood run down all over his clothes. Ma reached a hand from under the blanket and snapped Ruthie on the cheek with her finger. The little girl went rigid for a moment and then dissolved into sniffling quiet crying. In the sanitary unit, Pa and Uncle John sat in adjoining compartments. My, it's well getting a good last one, said Pa. It's sure nice. Remember how the little fellas was so scared when they flushed him for the first time? I wasn't so easy myself, said Uncle John. He pulled his overalls neatly up around his knees. I'm getting bad, he said. I feel sin. You can't feel sin none, said Pa. You ain't got no money. Just sit tight, 'cause you at least $2 to sin. And we ain't got $2 amongst us. Yeah, but I'm thinking sin. All right, well, you can think sin for nothing. It's just as bad, said Uncle John. It's a whole hell of a lot cheaper, said Pa. Don't you go making light of sin. I ain't. You just go ahead. You always get sinful, just when hell's a-poppin'. I know it, said Uncle John. Always was that way. I never told half the stuff I done. Well, keep it to yourself. These here nice toilets get me sinful. I got out in the bushes then. Come on, Pa. Come on. Pull up your pants and let's get some sleep. Pa pulled his overall straps in place, and snapped the buckle. He flushed the toilet and watched thoughtfully while the water whirled in the bowl. It was dark when Ma rose to her camp. The low night lights shone through the open doors of the sanitary units. From the tents along the road came the assorted snores of the campers. Ma said, "Come on, roll out. We gotta be on our way. The day's not far off." She raised the screechy shade of the lantern and lighted the wick. "Come on, all of you." The floor of the tent squirmed into slow action. Blankets and comforts were thrown back and sleepy eyes squinted blindly at the light. Ma slipped on her dress over the underclothes she wore to bed. "We got no coffee," she said. "I got a few biscuits we can eat 'em on the road. Just get up now, and we'll load the truck. Come on now. Don't make no noise. Don't want to wake up the neighbors." It was a few moments before they were fully aroused now. "Don't you get away," Ma warned the children. The family dressed. The men pulled down the tarpaulin and loaded up the truck. "Make it nice and flat," Ma warned them. They piled the mattress on top of the load and bound the tarpaulin in place over its right pull. "All right, Ma," said Tom. "She's ready." Ma held a plate of cold biscuits in her hand. "All right, here. Each take one. It's all we got." Ruthie and Winfield grabbed their biscuits and climbed up on the load. They covered themselves with a blanket and went back to sleep, still holding the cold, hard biscuits in their hands. Tom got into the driver's seat and stepped on the starter. It buzzed a little, and then stopped. "God damn you, Al," Tom cried. "You let the battery run down." Al bursted. "How the hell was I going to keep her up if I ain't got the gas to run her?" Tom chuckled. "Well, I don't know how, but it's your fault. You got to crank her." "I tell you, it ain't my fault." Tom got out and found the crank under the seat. "It's my fault," he said. "Give me that crank." Al seized it, pulled down the spark so she didn't take my arm off. "Okay, twist her tail." Al labored at the crank around and around and around. The engine caught, spluttered, and roared as Tom choked the car delicately. He raised the spark and reduced the throttle. Ma climbed in beside him. "We woke up everybody in the camp," she said. "They'll go to sleep again." Al climbed in on the other side. Pa and Uncle John got up top. He said, "Going to sleep again." Tom drove toward the main gate. The watchman came out of the office and played his flashlight on the truck. "Wait a minute. What you want?" "You checking out?" "Sure." "Well, I gotta cross you off." "Okay." "Know which way you're going?" "Well, we're gonna try up north." "Well, good luck," said the watchman. "Same to you. So long." The truck edged slowly over the big hump and into the road. Tom retracted the road he had driven before, past Weed Patch and west until he came to 99. Then north on the great paved road toward Bakersfield. It was grown light when he came into the outskirts of the city. Tom said, "Every place you look is restaurants, and them places all got coffee. Look at that all-nighter there. Bet they got 10 gallons of coffee in there, all hot." "Aw, shut up," said Al. Tom grinned over at him. Well, I see you got yourself a girl right off. Well, what of it? He means this morning, Ma. He ain't good company. Al said irritably. I'm going out on my own pretty soon. Fella can make his way a lot easier if he ain't got a family. Tom said, You'd have yourself a family in 9 months. I seen you playing around. You're crazy, said Al. I'd get myself a job in a garage and I'd eat in a restaurant. And you'd have a wife and kids in 9 months. 9 months. I tell you, I wouldn't. Tom said, You're a wise guy, Al. You're going to take some beating over the head. Who's going to do it? There'll always be guys to do it, said Tom. You think just because you... Now, you just stop that, Ma broke in. I done it, said Tom. I was a badgering him. I didn't mean no harm. Al, I didn't know you liked that girl so much. I didn't like no girls much. I don't like no girls much. All right then, you don't. You ain't gonna get no argument out of me. The truck came to the edge of the city. Look at them hot dog stands. Hundreds of them, said Tom. Ma said, Tom, I got $1 put away. You want coffee bad enough to spend it? No, Mom, I'm just fooling. You can have it if you want it bad enough. I wouldn't take it. Al said, then shut up about coffee. Tom was silent for a time. Seems like I got my foot in it all the time, he said. There's the road we run up that night. I hope we don't never have nothing like that again, said Ma. That was a bad night. I didn't like it none either. The sun rose on their right, and the great shadow of the truck ran beside them, flicking over the fence posts beside the road. They ran on past the rebuilt Hooverville. Look, said Tom. They got new people there. Looks like the same place. Al came slowly out of his sullenness. Fella told me some of them people had been burned out 15, 20 times. Says they just go hide down the willows and then they come out and build them another weed shack, just like gophers. Got so used to it, they don't even get mad no more. This fella says they just figure it's like bad weather. Sure was bad weather for me that night, said Tom. They moved up the wide highway, and the sun's warmth made them shiver. Getting snappy in the morning, said Tom. Winter's on the way. I just hope we can get some money before it comes. Tent ain't gonna be nice in the winter, Ma sighed. And then she straightened her head. Tom, she said, we gotta have a house in the winter. I tell you, we got to. Ruthie's all right, but Winfield ain't so strong. We gotta have a house when the rain comes. I heard it just rains cats around here. Well, we'll get a house, Ma. You rest easy. You're gonna have a house. Just so it's got a roof and a floor. Just to keep the little fellows off in the ground. We'll try, Ma. I don't want to worry you now. We'll try, Ma. I just get panicky sometimes, she said. I just lose my spunk. I've never seen you when you lost it. Nights I do sometimes. There came a crashing hissing from the front of the truck. Tom grabbed the wheel tight, and he thrust the brake down to the floor. The truck bumped to a stop. Tom sighed. Well, there she is. He leaned back in the seat. Al leaped out and ran to the right front tire. Great big nail, he called. We got any tire patch? No, said Al. Used it all up. Got patch, but no glue stuff. Tom turned and smiled sadly at Ma. You shouldn't have told about that $1, he said. We'd have fixed her some way. He got out the car and went to the flat tire. Al pointed to a big nail protruding from the flat casing. There she is. If there's one nail in the country, we run over her. Is it bad? Ma called. No, not bad, but we gotta fix her. The family piled down from the top of the truck. Puncture. Pa asked, and then he saw the tire and was silent. Tom moved Ma from the seat and got the can of tire patch from underneath the cushion. He unrolled the rubber patch and took out the tube of cement Squeezed it gently. She almost dry, he said. Maybe there's enough. All right, Al. Block the back wheels. Let's get her jacked up. Tom and Al worked together. They put stones behind the wheels, put the jack under the front axle, and lifted the weight of the limp casing. They ripped off the casing. They found the hole, dipped a rag in the gas tank, and washed the tube around the hole. And then, while Al held the tube over his knee, Tom tore the cement tube in two and spread the little fluid thinly on the rubber with his pocket knife. He scraped the gum delicately. Now let her dry while I cut a patch. He trimmed and beveled the edge of the blue patch. Al held the tube tight while Tom put the patch tenderly in place. There. Now bring her to the running board while I tap her with a hammer. He pounded the patch carefully, then stretched the tube and watched the edges of the patch. There she is. She's gonna hold. Stick her on the rim and we'll bump her up. Looks like you keep your buck, Ma. Al said. I wished we had a spare. We got to get us a spare, Tom, on a rim and all pumped up. Then we can fix a puncture at night. When we get money for a spare, we'll get us some coffee and side meat instead, Tom said. The light morning traffic buzzed by on the highway, and the sun grew warm and bright. A wind, gentle and sighing, blew in puffs from the southwest, and the mountains on both sides of the great valley were indistinct in a pearly mist. Tom was pumping at the tire when a roadster, coming from the north, stopped on the other side of the road. A brown-faced man dressed in a lightly gray business suit got out and walked across to the truck. He was bareheaded. He smiled, and his teeth were very white against his brown skin. He wore a massive gold wedding ring on the third finger of his left hand. A little gold football hung on a slender chain across his vest. "Mornin'," he said pleasantly. Tom stopped pumping and looked up. "Mornin'." The man ran his fingers through his coarse, short, graying hair. "You people looking for work?" "We sure are, mister. Looking even under the boards. Can you pick peaches?" "We never done it," Pa said. "We can do anything," Tom said hurriedly. "We can pick anything there is." The man fingered his gold football. "Well, there's plenty of work for you about 40 miles north." "We'd sure admire to get in," said Tom. You tell us how to get there, and we'll go a lopping." "Well, you go north to Pixley. That's the 35 or 60 miles, and you turn east. Go about 6 miles. Ask anybody where the Hooper Ranch is. You'll find plenty of work there." "We sure will." "Know where there's other people looking for work?" "Sure," said Tom. "Down at the Weed Patch Camp. There's plenty looking for work. I'll take a run down there. We can use quite a few. Remember now. Turn east at Pixley and keep straight east to the Hooper Ranch." "Sure," said Tom. "And we thank you, mister. We need work awful bad." "All right. Get along as soon as you can." We walked back across the road, climbed into his open roadster, and drove away, south. Tom threw his weight on the pump. 20 apiece, he called. 1, 2, 3, 4. At 20, all took the pump, and then Pa and then Uncle John. The tire filled out and grew plump and smooth. 3 times around, the pump went. "Let her down and let's see," said Tom, and released the jack and lowered the car. "Got plenty," he said. "Maybe a little too much." They threw the tools in the car. "Come on, let's go," Tom called. We're gonna get some work at last." Ma got in the middle again. "I'll drove this time. Now take her easy. Don't burn her up, all." They drove on through the sunny morning fields. The mist lifted from the hilltops, and they were clear and brown, with black purple creases. The wild doves flew up from the fences as the truck passed, and unconsciously increased his speed. "Easy," Tom warned him. "She'll blow up if you crowd her." "We got to get there. Might even get in some work today," Ma said excitedly. "With 4 men working, maybe I can get some credit right off. First thing I'll get is coffee, 'cause you've been wanting that, and then some flour and baking powder and some meat. Better not get no side meat right off. Save that for later. Maybe saddy and soap. Got to get soap. Wonder where we'll stay," she babbled on. "And milk? I'll get some milk 'cause Rosa's sharing. She ought to have milk. The lady nurses says that." A snake wriggled across the warm highway. Al zipped over and ran it down and came back to his own lane. "Gopher snake," said Tom. You ought to done that." "I hate 'em," said Al gaily. "Hate all kinds. Give me that stomach ache." The forenoon traffic on the highway increased. Salesmen in shiny coupes with the insignia of their companies painted on the doors, red and white gasoline trucks dragging clinking chains behind them, great square-doored vans from wholesale grocery houses delivering produce. The country was rich along the roadside. There were orchards heavy-leafed in their prime and vineyards with their long green crawlers carpeting the ground between the rows. There were melon patches and grain fields. White houses stood in the greenery, roses growing over them, and the sun was gold and warm. In the front seat of the truck, Ma and Tom and Al were overcame with happiness. I really felt so good for a long time, Ma said. F, we picked plenty peaches. We might get a house, pay rent, even for a couple months. We gotta have a house, Al said. I'm gonna save up. I'll save up, and then I'm going in a town and get me a job in a garage. Live in a room and eat in restaurants. Go to the moving pictures every damn night. Don't cost much. Cowboy pictures. His hands tightened on the wheel. The radiator bubbled and hissed steam. Did you fill her up? Tom asked. Yeah. Wind's kind of behind us. That's what makes her boil. It's an awful nice day, Tom said. Used to work there in McAllister and think all the things I'd do. I'd go in a straight line way to hell and gone and never stop nowheres. Seems like a long time ago. Seems like it's years ago I was in. They was a guard made it tough. I was gonna lay for him. Guess that's what makes me mad at cops. Seems like every cop got his face. He used to get red in the face. Looked like a pig. Had a brother out west, they said. Used to get full fellas paroled to his brother, and then they'd had to work for nothing. If they raised a stink, they'd get sent back for breaking parole. That's what the feller said. Don't think about it, Ma begged him. I'm gonna lay in a lot of stuff to eat. A lot of flour and lard. Might's well think about it, said Tom. Try to shut it out, and it'll never wing back at me. There was a screwball. Never told you about him. Looked like happy hooligan. Harmless kind of fella. Always gonna make a break. Fellas all called him hooligan. Tom laughed to himself. Don't think about it, Ma. Begged. Go on, said Al. Tell about the fella. It don't hurt nothing, Ma, Tom said. This fella was always gonna break out. Make a plan, he would, but he couldn't keep it to himself, and pretty soon everybody knowed it, even the warden. He'd make his break, and they'd take him by the hand and lead him back. Well, one time he drawed a plan where he's going over. Of course, he showed it around, and everybody kept still. And he'd hit out, and everybody kept still, so he was going to get himself a rope somewheres. And he goes over the wall. There's 6 guards outside with a great big sack, and Hooligan comes quiet down the rope, and they just hold the sack out, and he goes right inside. They tie up the mouth and take him back inside. Fellas laughed so hard they like to die, but it busted Hooligan's spirit. He just cried and moped around and got sick. Hurt his feelings so bad, cut his wrists with a pin, and bled to death because his feelings was hurt. No harm in him at all. That's all kinds of screwballs in stir. They all kinds of screwballs in stir. Don't talk about it, Ma said. I knowed purty boy, Floyd's Ma. He wasn't a bad boy. He just drove in a corner. The sun moved up toward noon, and the shadow of the truck grew lean and moved in under the wheels. Must be Pixley up the road, Al said. Seen a sign a little back. They drove into the little town and turned eastward on a narrower road. The orchards lined the way and made an aisle. I hope we can find her easy, Tom said. Ma said, that fella said the Hooper Ranch. Said, anybody tell us. Hope there's a store nearby. Might get some credit with 4 men working. I could get a real nice supper if they'd give me some credit. Make up a big stew, maybe. And coffee, said Tom. Might even get me a sack of Durham. I ain't had no tobacco of my own for a long time. Far ahead the road was blocked with cars, and a line of white motorcycles was drawn up along the roadside. Must be a wreck, Tom said, as they drove near a state policeman in boots and Sam Brown belt. Stepped around the last parked car. He held up his hand and pulled, and Al pulled to a stop. The policeman leaned confidentially on the side of the car. Where you going? Al said. Fella said they was work picking peaches up this way. Wanna work, do you? Damn right, said Tom. Okay. Wait here a minute. He moved to the side of the road and called ahead. One more. That's 6 cars ready. Better take this batch through. Tom called. Hey, what's the matter? The patrolman laughed. The patrolman lunged back. Got a little trouble up ahead. Don't you worry. You'll get through. Just follow the line. There came the splattering blast of motorcycles starting. The line of cars moved on, with the Jode truck last. Two motorcycles led the way, and two followed. Tom said uneasily, "I wonder what's the matter. Maybe the road's out," Al suggested. "Don't need four cops to lead us. I don't like it." The motorcycles ahead speeded up. The line of old cars speeded up. Al hurried to keep in the back of the last car. "These here is our own people, all of them," Tom said. "I don't like this." Suddenly, the leading policeman turned off the road into a wide graveled entrance. The old cars whipped after them. The motorcycles roared their motors. Tom saw a line of men standing in the ditch beside the road, saw their mouths open as they were yelling, saw they were shaking fists and their furious faces. A stout woman ran toward the car, but a roaring motorcycle stood in her way. A high wire gate swung open. The 6 old cars moved through the gate, closed behind them. The 4 motorcycles turned and sped back in the direction from which they had come. And now the motors were gone. The distant yelling of men in the ditch could be heard. 2 men stood beside the graveled road. Each one carried a shotgun. One called, "Go on, go on. What the hell are you waiting for?" The 6 cars moved ahead, turned and bent, and came suddenly on the Peach camp. They were 50 little square, flat-roofed boxes, each with a door and a window, and the whole group in a square. A water tank stood high on the edge of the camp, and a little grocery store stood on the other side. At the end of each row of square houses stood 2 men, armed with shotguns and wearing big silver stars pinned to their shirts. The 6 cars stopped. Two bookkeepers moved from car to car. "Want to work?" Tom answered. "Sure, but what is this?" "That's not your affair." "Want to work?" "Sure we do. Name?" "Jode." "How many men?" 4. "Women?" 2. "Kids?" 2. "Can all of you work?" "Why, I guess so." "Okay." "Find house 63. Wages 5 cents a box. No bruised fruit. All right. Move along now. Go to work right away." The cars moved on, and the door of each square red house, a number was painted. 60, Tom said. "There's 60. Must be down that way." "There's 61. There's 62. There she is." I'll park the truck close to the door of the little house. In the little house. The family came down from the top of the truck and looked about in bewilderment. 2 deputies approached. They looked closely into each face. "Name?" "Jode." Tom said it impatiently. Say, what is this here?" One of the deputies took out a long list. Not here. Ever see these here? Look at the license." "Nope." "Ain't got it. Guess they're okay. Now, you look here. We don't want no trouble with you. Just do your work and mind your own business, and you'll be all right." The 2 turned abruptly and walked away. At the end of the dusty street, they sat down on the 2 boxes, and their position commanded the length of the street. Tom stared after them. "They sure do want to make us feel at home." Ma opened the door of the house and stepped inside. The floor was splashed with grease. In the one room stood a rusty tin stove and nothing more. The tin stove rested on 4 bricks, and its rusty stovepipe went up through the roof. The room smelled of sweat and grease. Rose of Sharon stood beside Ma. "We gonna live here?" Ma was silent for a moment. "Why, sure," she said at last. "It ain't so bad, once we washed it out. Get her mopped." "I like the tent better," the girl said. "This got a floor," Ma suggested. "This here wouldn't leak when it rains." She turned to the door. "Might as well unload," she said. The men unloaded the truck silently. A fear had fallen on them. The great square of boxes was silent. A woman went by in the street, but she did not look at them. Her head was sunk, and her dirty gingham dress was frayed at the bottom in little flags. The pall had fallen on Ruthie and Winfield. They did not dash away to inspect the place. They stayed close to the truck, close to the family. They looked forlornly up and down the dusty street. Winfield found a piece of bawling wire, and he bent it back and forth until it broke. He made a little crank of the shortest piece and turned it around and around in his hand. Tom and Paul were carrying the mattresses into the house when a clerk appeared. He wore khaki trousers and a blue shirt, and his black necktie. He wore silver-bound eyeglasses, and his eyes through the thick lenses were weak and red, and the pupils were staring little bull's eyes. He leaned forward to look at Tom. "I want to get you checked down," he said. "How many of you going to work?" Tom said. "There's 4 men is here. Hard work. Picking peaches," the clerk said. Piecework. Give 5 cents a box. Ain't no reason why the little fellas can't help. Sure not, if they're careful. Ma stood in the doorway. Soon's I get settled down, I'll come out and help. We got nothing to eat, mister. Do we get paid right off? Well, no. Not money right off, but you can get credit at the store for what you got coming. Come on, let's hurry, said Tom. I want to get some meat and bread in me tonight. Where do we go, mister? Page 505. I'm pausing the audio to grab a charger for my computer.